Hey guys, Cody. I'm going to do a script method this week and see if I can deliver a discussion post that is thorough and full, as well as something you can have a written script. I'm going to post the script with the video so that you can maybe pull some stuff from there and have an easier time getting questions together, so you don't have to watch and listen every time that you want to use it. So thanks for listening. So the phrase race is a social construct describes a historically supported and now widely accepted view that what contemporary humans think of as race, which is, in my view, something inseparable from the individual and plainly visible to external observers without any interaction or investigation besides their senses, mostly sight, is actually an artificial construct crafted within the colonial period of recent human history by mainly Western European nation-states to be a means through which large-scale genocide, theft, oppression, mistreatment, and general disrespect of the local populations could be justified. Being the creators of such a system of human classification, obviously, their own likenesses became the most desirable, thus the highest ranking for each measure on the social location map, which is what was provided to us in this week's resources, as just one example, coincides with the colonists themselves and is relative, here's important, relative to individual colonies or former colonies, so whether current or former. So aside from the vividly documented historical origins of race, another factor that proves the concept is socially constructed is what I just mentioned. Race and its complex hierarchy of power and oppression is relative. So, as our Psychology Today reading points out, the racial divisions are far more gradient in South Africa than they are in the United States. In South Africa, there are countless shades of race, each with its own distinct, fluid social standing. This evolved from the nation's unique colonial history, unique relative to America and Brazil and other colonized nations, India, for example. The ongoing struggle against its institutionalized oppression. So the United States, in contrast, classifies sharply via the so-called one-drop rule, which is curiously and disappointingly a form of hypodescent, as our readings show us, which is a system of classification wherein biracial people are classified by the lower of the two social statuses attributed to them. And again, disappointingly and tragically and just disturbingly, it's the same framework, for example, the 1/16th cutoff or whatever arbitrary, if you can even measure that visually. The exact same framework that was used by the Nazis in the infamous period of their reign in the early to mid 20th century, which had despicable results that are just tragic. So we use that same system. Thankfully, we haven't taken it to that point yet, but hopefully never. But here we are with the same framework, so it's disappointing. Continuing on, there are many other systems of racial classification that are also illustrative of the artificial nature of race, such as the colorblind system in Brazil. And I'm sure we'll get to this. Maybe I haven't got to it yet in my reading, but in the other ETST-404 class I took, it was the formation of race, and we talked about Brazil in depth, and I thought it was pretty interesting, so I wanted to bring it up. But in Brazil, I can expand on, so let me go back to my script. I can expand on Brazil to answer the third question in the week's prompt, luckily. So, but I can't go into too much detail. So, because in Brazil, they attempted to fix their social problems by becoming colorblind, legally colorblind, governmentally colorblind. And unfortunately, now they experience unintended and difficult consequences. Because the national government doesn't officially recognize race, those who are oppressed don't actually have any footing. So they've actually lost their footing in fighting the system, which keeps them inferior. In other words, they cannot claim to be discriminated against because the reason behind that discrimination is not recognized by those in power, which is a crazy turn of events if you think about it. Thus, tragically, the path towards equality and social justice seems even less navigable than before. Finally, to go back to the second question, I went from 1 to 3 to 2 now. Though race is completely artificial, social construct has very, very, very real consequences and has led to the hateful oppression, inexcusable mistreatment, institutionalized disrespect of billions of human beings since the days of colonial exploration, beginning in the late 15th century. So billions of human beings. So very, very real consequences for something completely socially constructed as a tool for personal and collective gain back 500 years ago. So my 2 questions for the week are ones I expect don't have real answers yet, whether here or elsewhere. And also, I recognize that they're probably very fundamental in the course itself, like the underpinnings of the course. And so I'm excited to hear everyone's answers today, and then maybe reflect on those, and then contrast to 15 weeks from now or 14 or 13 weeks from now, if we can revisit similar questions, or even if I just do that personally. I think it's going to be interesting. So number 1, some viewpoints are so ingrained in the human sense of self, such as religious truth or racial identity in this case, that convincing people otherwise is nearly impossible, if tried too quickly anyway. So it's nearly impossible if tried too quickly. There are ways to change people's mind, even for things that are just so shocking to sense of self that it can be done. It just takes time. So I'm going to say that again. Some viewpoints are so ingrained in the human sense of self, such as religious truth or racial identity in this case, that convincing people otherwise is nearly impossible if tried too quickly. What can be done by those in power to ignite slow reactions that might have a more effective result overall? So what can be done by those in power to ignite slow reactions that may be more effective than wake up one day and race doesn't exist? You know, I feel like we could handle that, but general public as a whole, majority would not be able to handle that. It wouldn't. That method wouldn't go very far, and it may have consequences we don't want. So number 2, education is clearly the first step, as we all are seeing, I believe, towards tearing down the walls of oppression. What would be the second step, in your opinion? And again, this is probably a terrible question. I'm not sure. It might have no real means by which to answer it. But if you can answer it, after education, what's the second step? You can put yourself in anyone's shoes, government, yourself, oppressed, oppressor, it doesn't matter. What's your second step? And yeah, so thanks for your time. I know this is a long video. It's a script method. Maybe I'll go something else later, but I'm going to post it and with the script as well, and hopefully it goes well and you guys can give me good feedback. So I look forward to listening to yours as well. So thanks for your time and listening to mine, and have a good week. See you later.